Us in the studio now is someone who, well, it makes my efforts in the London Marathon, couple of efforts, absolutely pitiful, I think it's fair to say. But anyone who has maybe plodded their way around the 26 miles, or 26.2 miles, imagine doing it 7 times over, 7 continents in 7 days, and setting a world record whilst you're about it. That's the aim of Fiona Oakes, who's already beaten 3 world records last year.
Yeah.
You've completed in the toughest foot race on the planet for the second time this year.
Got back,
a marathon to sub.
Yeah.
And also you are doing this and proving that you can do it being a vegan. And on top of that, you also have an animal sanctuary to run. So do you sleep? That's the first question. When do you sleep, Fiona?
I do sleep, but I tend to get up about 3:30 in the morning and start work.
And go to bed at about 4:30.
No, I have to go to bed when the work finishes.
Yeah,
so whatever I've got to do, and I've got to cram it in there and get it all done.
How do you train?
I train very hard, and the training is secondary to the sanctuary, so the animals' needs come first, and that's really my motivation. People say they struggle to motivate themselves to get off the couch and go training. I don't actually sit on the couch, so it's literally one thing.
You haven't got a couch.
I haven't got a couch. No, I don't sit down. So literally, my motivation to go training is if I see an opportunity, a window in the day to train. If I don't grab that, I can't train at all. I know that. And that's the motivation, literally, to just get out there. I've very limited time. So if I want to do it, I've got to do it and be economical with the time that I spend doing it.
And I'm going to talk to you about, what you do, how you prepare. The other element I need to introduce as well, or you can tell people, is that you're doing this as well without a right kneecap.
Yeah, I am. I had very, very severe injury problems when I was growing up. Between the ages of about 14 and 17, 18, I couldn't walk properly. I was in and out of hospital on crutches, and I had a lot of surgery to both my knees, actually. But it resulted in the fact that I have lots of other complications, but no right kneecap, which makes it a very unstable situation for me to actually be able to run. In fact, I was told at one point that I would never walk properly, let alone run. So it is quite amazing that I can do what I do. Is
it fortitude? Is it determination? Is it what then therefore drives you to run? Because some people will say, wow, that must be too painful, that must be too difficult, it must be too awkward.
It is painful when I run, I'm not going to lie, but it's the kind of pain I'm accustomed to and I know I can manage. That's what it happens if I run. It's not this kind of situation where I'm limping round, grimacing and sweating and thinking, oh my goodness, I'm doing severe injury. It's what I know I have to work with if I want to run, and I want to run. So I am going to manage the pain and manage the injury.
So what made you want to run?
To be quite honest with you, I run to, in a positive, proactive kind of way, promote a vegan diet. I've been a vegan since I was 6 years old.
Right.
I'm not saying that it's for everyone. I'm saying that it's not probably for very many people. But it's very, very frustrating to constantly hear, snippets that you can't be healthy, you can't be fit, you're going to keel over if you try to run for a bus on a vegan diet. And I thought, well, that's completely not true because look what I've done on it. So it's just a way of getting out there, wearing my vegan runner vest and doing something positive rather than something negative.
So when did you start running seriously?
Started in about 1999. Come from a cycling background. Didn't have time when we moved to the sanctuary to continue because you've got to be on the bike for hours.
Even
if you
more,
want.
Yeah.
So basically, when I came to the sanctuary, I thought, well, I just don't want to stagnate and do nothing. So I thought I'll go jogging. So I'm quite competitive. So jogging was then running. I wonder what it'd have to be if you entered a race. And I just entered a half marathon to start with, and I won it. And they said, you've broken the course record. And I thought, oh, crikey, this is quite good. I now class myself as a runner. And, kind of looking into it. But it's before the internet actually burst onto the scene. So there wasn't, Google it and, search for this online. It was very much a kind of trial and error situation. That's how I built my training up, trial and error. Yeah. Don't have a coach or anything like that. I don't even have a physical running club, which I attend. All my training is done alone, which I think is quite motivational to people, actually, because you can do it. You can do it without all the fancy aids, without the track. I do my speed work on a treadmill. And the reason I do my speed work on a treadmill is that I literally cannot, my knee is so bad, I can't run the bends of a track repetitively.
Right.
I've tried it and I can't do it.
So you need to do it on a straight...
I have to do it on a flat surface, yeah. And okay, a treadmill, it's got its pros and cons, but you can't, it doesn't lie to you. You can't kid yourself on a treadmill.
True.
So yeah, I've always done my speed work on a treadmill, and it's taken me to a 2:38 marathon. So it's not bad for me kind of thing. It's standing me in good stead.
That's very good.
So yeah, that's why I do it. But I do it to promote, positively what I believe in.
When you say you're competitive, obviously competition, you are racing against other people. How much of that competitiveness, though, is personal competitiveness? So you want to run a quicker time than you did last time. I mean, people talk about certain sports which are a challenge of beating yourself or beating the course. So golf is very much like that. You don't play against, match play exists, but you don't play necessarily against another player. You're playing against your ability and that course. Is there an element of that as well, that you want to just push yourself to improve yourself, or do you like actually having other runners that you can try and race?
Well, I'm quite a high achiever in that. I don't think I've ever really come back from a race and thought I did well there. I mean, I'm always thinking, if I'd have done this, would I have done a bit better, or could I have done this? But I don't consider myself a good enough runner to think I'm racing a marathon. I don't actually know many runners that can actually race a marathon. What you're kind of doing there is damage limitation, getting yourself to the 26.2 finish line at the best possible pace you can maintain without doing yourself ridiculous damage. Yeah. So the marathon is a bit of a challenge in terms of a lot can go wrong in those 2.5 plus hours. So, yeah, I mean, I don't look at other runners and think, I'm going to take you out and I'm going to do this. I know full well that, I've not got the greatest amount of talent in the world, so I'm more focused in what I'm doing and challenging myself.
And so it's two very different types of racing, though, because there is the road racing, and I know you've got an elite entry for the Great North Run coming up in the northeast. Yeah. But also we talked about the Marathon des Sables and running it in Antarctica. Yeah. Running at the North Pole. I mean, the challenges that those locations, those environments pose for a runner is different than racing around the roads of Newcastle and Gateshead.
Oh yeah, it's completely different. I mean, somebody said to me they thought running was running and you just ran for a bit longer if you were going to run in the desert, and it is completely and utterly different. It's literally like asking Usain Bolt to do a 10k. It really is completely different training. Everything's different about it, even the psychology of it. I mean, I used to consider 13.1 miles as quite hefty, a little bit of distance. Now I'm thinking it's a sprint. I mean, I've got to literally just get out there and hack along for. Yeah, I mean, the training is. When I did the Marathon des Sables, you're out for like 8 hours at a time, training with a backpack, just for the longer stages, because you can't run the same pace in the desert that you can run on the road. So I think I'm probably one of the only runners in the world, if not the only, that's crossing over from actual elite road running to this kind. There won't be any girls on the start line of the Great North Run, for instance, that have actually done Marathon des Sables or doing the North Pole or things like that. It's just completely different.
And what is it like, therefore, running? I'll talk about the extreme sort of running in the desert. What's it like running in the extreme cold parts of the world? The top and right at the top and right at the bottom of the world. What is that? Obviously you train, no doubt, when you're at home around the roads of Essex and, or the fields of Essex. Yeah. But what's it like, on the ice fields of Coatsland or wherever it may be?
Yeah, I mean, at the North Pole, it was scary, it was exciting, it was just amazing. It was, my psyche tends to be, a marathon will start at 9 or 10 in the morning. There will be spectate, that kind of thing. And I was thinking, we've got to start in the morning. And I thought, no, we haven't got to start in the morning, because there is no morning here. There is no time. It's daylight all the time. It's, I remember standing on the start line about midnight. It was very, very cold, and thinking, what am I doing? And then about 2 hours later, I was running around on my own, and I was still thinking, oh Lord, what am I doing now? Even more, I couldn't actually really see where I was going very well, because the my water in my eyes had frozen, my vision was getting in, and I thought, well, just pull yourself together, girl, because you're not going to be back here. So just enjoy it now and just keep going. But obviously it's a different kind of running, because with some you've got to be very, very careful, because in a normal road marathon, if you judge your pace wrong, you slow down and you run a slower time. Yeah. In something like that, if you slow down, you are getting sweaty even at the North Pole. Then you get hypothermia, and then you've got real problems. You could get problems with frostbite. So it's just about body management. A little bit like an aircraft pilot, you've literally got to be monitoring every digit, every facet of your body, and thinking, is the problem developing? And if so, nip it in the bud. Don't let it develop.
What was the support mechanism like? Or were you on your own on the ice?
At the North Pole, I mean, obviously, it is very, very well ordered. They don't just say, right, off you go, 13.1 miles.
We'll see you in a few
then
hours,
turn
hopefully.
around and come back, yeah. No, I mean, it was very, very well managed. You actually stay at the Russian base camp, which is there for research. They allow you to use it.
Right.
And it's a 3-mile course, basically, that you run round. And obviously, it's well chaperoned for things like polar bears that might approach.
Which is, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that
scary.
is significant. I actually thought that was a bit of a joke that polar bears would be there. And then I was laying on my bunk ready to run, and I heard a dog barking, and I thought, oh, crikey, I'm drifting into delirium here. That, you know, I can hear a dog. I'm not at home. So I thought, no, I must go and investigate this. So I put all the clothes on. I went to investigate, and there's a Russian guy standing there, a beautiful husky dog. And I said, oh, isn't he beautiful? What do you have him here for? He said, well, he's here to guard against polar bears. And I said, how does he do that? He said, well, he barks if they're in the vicinity. And I'm thinking, but he's barking.
Yeah.
You know,
So there's a polar bear
around. But yeah, I mean, it was, but most of the time, I have to say, apart from lapping other runners,
Yeah.
I was just actually running alone around the North Pole, or as near to the North Pole as they can actually logistically set the base up.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Amazing. And the Marathon des Sables, just to explain, I mean, that's a totally different.
Yes, that's
Circumstance.
completely different end of the spectrum. That is 7 days in the Sahara Desert. It's roughly around about a marathon a day. 1 day is a double marathon. The difficult thing about that is you have to carry everything you need for the whole week on your back from day one. So if you aren't carrying it and no other competitor is kind enough to lend it to you, you're not going to get it for that week.
Does that includes water?
They give you limited water along the way,
Right.
obviously, but and a basic tent that you share with 7 other people. But after that, you've your food, your fuel, if you want to light your little cook, everything has got to be carried on your back. So this year was incredibly difficult because they started the stage, you've got your heaviest weight on your back because you hadn't used anything.
Yeah.
So I had an 11-kilo backpack, and the first 9.5 miles of that race were through sand dunes.
Oof.
And they went through the highest sand dune in Morocco, which was 800 feet high. And it's probably 50 plus degrees heat, and it's reflecting back at you. It's so brutal.
Yeah.
And you are, I think it does actually give you a massive appreciation of things which you take for granted in this country. I mean, I remember getting frightened, literally frightened, that I didn't have water. I thought, is my water running out? I've got, how long to the next checkpoint? Because there aren't road markers and 1 mile to go markers.
Yeah,
You're never quite sure where you are and where the next checkpoint's going to be. You've got a rough idea. And literally, if you judge it wrong. I mean, one guy actually pulled out on the first day. He told one of the race officials, I really don't feel very well. And they said, it's only 50 metres to the next checkpoint, you'll get water there. And he actually couldn't make it. He collapsed and he had to pull out of the race.
50 metres?
50 metres. He couldn't make that extra 50 metres. In that sort of heat, with that sort of
Once
exhaustion,
you've gone.
You're no coming back from that dehydration level.
So your challenge of 7 marathons in 7 days on 7 continents, that's for next year?
Yeah, that's for February next year.
And how exactly does that work? I mean, that's some challenge.
Yeah, we go to Australia, and then literally we travel from Australia. It will be the United Arab Emirates, then on to a venue in Africa, then to Europe, then to North America, down to Punta Arenas, and then on to Antarctica. And it will literally be a marathon a day, every day, as well as the flying.
Well, so you do your marathon, you get to you virtually
roll off the plane, do your marathon, get back on the plane.
So there's just your rest, your recovery is done on the flight.
Yeah, basically.
And you're hoping to set a world record. I mean, what's the record that is that an accumulative time over the 7 marathons?
Yeah, I mean, obviously the record is 7 marathons in 7 days on 7 continents. But obviously I want to set another record. I mean, I'm not hoping to run them too slowly. I've got a time in mind that, for instance, if they're on a decent course, looking for around about 4 hours for each day, which would obviously be a cumulative time of, I want to use this road speed that I've got to actually bring it into, kind of an actual valid running record. I mean, essentially speaking, what I'm trying to say is when you say to run a marathon, I want to run them. I don't want to get round. I want to do some form of running. I mean, it could take you 12 hours to do it, so to speak. It would probably miss the plane to the next one if it did. But you know what I mean? I want to put some credibility to the actual time it takes to actually do the running.
Yeah.
And that's what I did last year when I was doing the 7 continents plus North Pole. I realised very quickly that I was running like 3 hours for each race, even though they were like a couple of weeks apart and I was having to travel to different continents to do them. I do want to actually say, I want to put a standard of running in there.
So organising this, logistically, how difficult is it to put all this together?
It's appallingly difficult. Unfortunately, the organizer is in Kuwait, and he's a great guy, and he's actually putting it all together, checking out the courses, checking out that everything is actually valid for the Guinness World Records. He's got a lot of running clubs involved. A lot of governments of these countries are actually quite keen to be involved in this, because obviously it works in a kind of a double kind of knife, that they it's promoting healthy living as well. People actually getting off and doing things that are actually really, really healthy. So a lot of governments around the world, say in Australia, are really keen to get involved and promote it, to show what can be done with your body. It doesn't have to be an unfit healthy. It can be a real tool for you to do extraordinary things with.
Absolutely. So you're training. Let's go back to what you do on a daily basis. Then you fit in amongst your sanctuary. Just briefly, your sanctuary that you have. How many animals do you have?
We've got around 400 rescued animals at 3 different sites in Essex. We moved to we actually, one of the horses, I was doing rescue before we moved to the sanctuary. Then it just got ridiculous. One of the horses had an accident, and I said, look, one of us has got to give up our job and look after the animals. One has got to go to work and earn the money to do it. So Marty, my partner, was earning more than I, so he stayed on at work.
Right.
We moved to the sanctuary, and it just grew and grew and grew for there. That's why we got the 2 other satellite sites, and we've got 50 plus horses, cattle, sheep, pigs, goats, peacocks, cats, dogs, anything basically that we don't take reptiles, because I don't have the expertise, the facilities.
Sure.
I'm very keen for the sanctuary to be sanctuary, not kind of an asylum.
Do they come from farms? Do they come from people who pets that they disregard? They come from, I don't know, everywhere.
Every source you can possibly imagine. I mean, you get people. I mean, we had for instance, there was a terrible fire at a factory pig unit.
Right.
And the bloke was closing down. He had 1 pig left that had been burnt badly in the fire, and he was quite attached to. And he said, "Would you please take her, because I don't want to see her go the way of the others." A farmer down the road had a crippled invalid cow, and he said, "I can't keep her any longer, but if you would keep her and look after her, as I know you will, then would you consider taking her on?" I went to Marathon de Sable, and I came back and I found a horse that had been put into one of the satellite sites that we're not actually there 24/7, and with a note saying, "Please look after my horse. I can't look after it any longer. I know you will." We've had dogs tied up at the gate. I've had ponies brought to the gate. They come from all over the place and all over the country.
And how do you fund this fundraising?
Yeah,
Donations?
We do fundraising. As I say, when we first moved there, it was always my ethic to think, well, we've got to have some structure there in place to actually fund this. So it's Martin's salary, my mum's pension, what I earned as I was a retained firefighter. But then it grew and grew and grew, and people started to see the work I was doing and saying, "How can we help you? We'd like to donate," which is great. And we have actually got a lot of support from all around the world. It's more of a global thing. We're not a big enough sanctuary to have open days. For open days, you've got to have staff, you've got to have facilities. This is just our home.
Public liability and all that sort of thing.
We do it virtually online, and a lot of support from I do have another little sanctuary in Russia, which I've run for 13 years. I went out there, funnily enough, to do a marathon, and came back with this big kind of bee in my bonnet. I've got to do something to help animals out there. And now we get a lot of support from people in Russia, because obviously, their economy is growing. And a lot of people choose to help us because we help them.
So how much training can you fit in an average day? Or I suppose you don't have an average day. I mean, you never know. But say it starts at midnight and it goes through to 11:59 the following. But in that, I mean, how much training do you need to put in? How much can you put in?
If I want to run a quick time in a marathon, or say for the Great North Run, I need to run 100 miles a week. Personally, everybody's different. That's what I need to do. I have no talent for running. That's the first thing I must say. My best asset for running is realising and admitting I have no talent. Therefore, I know I'm going to have to graft hard to get anywhere. So I know that I've got to work hard. For me, it's 100 miles a week. Quality miles, I like to run three quality speed sessions a week. Tuesday, Thursday and Saturday I'll run speed work, and I'll do a run in the evening. Fridays it's hill pushers. Wednesdays a midweek long run. Sundays a long run. I might take Monday off, but I've veered against that now, and I do an off-road run with my pack instead. Right. So I'm looking for about 100 miles if it's a conventional road race, and probably 160 miles if I'm training for Marathon de Sable with my pack.
Fiona, we've got to take news and travel. A couple more questions. I know your time's precious. I don't want to keep you here for two. Can you just stay for a couple of minutes till after
surely.
2:30? I'm looking at Paul Hilton because myself and Paul have plodded around the marathon course a couple of times, and we are absolutely in awe of what you do. But there's a couple of other questions. But if that's okay, just keep you here for 10 minutes longer. If that's all right, Fiona.
Fine, yeah.
It's 2:30 on BBC London 94.9. Let's get the latest news and travel. Gary Crowley's here at 6. Currently in the studio with me, Fiona Oakes, the owner and runner of animal sanctuaries in Essex, but also runner extraordinaire, I think it's fair to say. We're talking about what you've already achieved, Fiona, with the marathon records that you hold on Antarctica and the North Pole, with your challenge that you've got next year, 7 marathons, 7 days and 7 continents, 777, which is absolutely extraordinary as well. And also, just sort of finally, just wanted to come back to you. I mean, just sort of the inspiration that you do this, I suppose. As you say, you do it for yourself because you enjoy it. You enjoy running. You enjoy the challenge.
I don't enjoy running.
You don't enjoy running at all?
No, I don't enjoy running. It serves a purpose.
Right.
I do it because the only bit I enjoy is I feel I'm doing some good for others by doing it. Okay. That's what gives me the enjoyment. I don't enjoy the training. I have to say, sometimes I actually sit down and think, when it's, say, Christmas Day night at like 10 or 11 o'clock, do I really now want to put this head torch on and go running? And the answer has to be, no, I'm not a masochist. I don't want to go, but I know I have got to go because I know this is the only time I've got to train. So I've got to do it now.
So there's not one day goes by where you give yourself a day off?
No, there's no excuses in my life to not train. There's reasons. I mean, I'm not a fool. I mean, if your leg dropped off, I'm not going to try and hobble out.
Or if you've got really, really heavy cold or flu or something. Yeah,
I mean, that's silly. That's just stupid. I do train around niggles and injuries. I will work out ways of training with them without doing any more damage. I'm an experienced enough athlete to know that's the problem, that's a niggle, that what I can cope with. But there are no excuses because at the end of the day, every day you could think of an excuse not to train. It could be the bad weather, or it could be a little late on your schedule, or whatever. Yeah. But you could, and then what day do you not find an excuse? So no, it's set in stone. When I'm training, I am training, and I can literally. In fact, actually, Martin and I've never been on holiday together, and I know when I'm trying to plot geography around the world, I think, yes, I was there to do that marathon. I've only ever been to places when there have been a purpose, like a race to do, like around the world or Amsterdam or whatever. I only know it for the marathon.
So the actual running doesn't give you pleasure, but you've got to do it. Do you get pleasure, therefore, if someone came up to you and said, "Oh, I heard about your story, or I've seen what you've done, and I've started doing a little bit of running, or I've started..." Is that what it's about?
Yeah, that is honestly, truly what it's about. It's a multifold thing. In the Marathon de Sable in 2012, one of the guys that I was with actually went vegan after he'd seen what I did. He said it's changed his life. He lost a lot of weight. He feels so much healthier. That's a great inspiration. But, one girl wrote to me from New Zealand. She'd been asked to do her school project on an inspirational woman, and she wanted to write it on me for everything that I've done, and to combine it not just with the fact that I love doing crazy marathons. I'm an adrenaline junkie. I do it for a reason. I mean, at the end of the day, I've run some quick marathons. I've got some high places in the London Marathon and, big races. Then I looked to kind of, going down to level 2 races, winning marathons. Then I looked at, what would I have to do the hardest race in the world? That's when Marathon de Sable cropped up. Then it's kind of, well, okay, what would be really challenging would be to go to the North Pole, which is challenging enough in itself, and to run a marathon there, but to win it and break the course record and to prove that I could do it. I came top placed in the men there. I came on the podium in the men's race at the North Pole. And that is that's just to say, don't laugh at me, don't belittle what I believe in. I'm not saying you have to follow it, but don't belittle it. Yeah. And that's why I do it, honestly.
Is there a book? Have you done a book? Or a film?
Everybody
someone else is going to have to write your book then.
Yeah, see, I haven't written a book, but I haven't got time to write it.
Dictate it as you're running.
Yeah, I'm too out of breath. Yeah.
One day, will you ever stop running?
Yeah, I'll stop running when I feel it. When I feel that the time I'm dedicating to it isn't producing the results I want.
Then you write your book.
Then I'll write my book, but I'll probably be too old to write by then.
It'd be an amazing book. And get a film out of it as well. It's an amazing story. We'll have to hear about more from you when you're getting closer to doing the 777.
Yeah, I mean, when I go to Everest, a lot of people are interested because I'm going to Everest in November to do a trail race there. That should be challenging because it's at high altitude, but I've already done a marathon at 14,500 feet in the Atacama Desert, which is brutal, and I wouldn't recommend that.
I bet.
It's very, very difficult. But I will certainly be in touch when I've done it.
It's amazing to meet you. Thank you very much for coming in, and we will follow your story continually.